Today, we are looking at the topic, watch what you copy. Watch what you copy. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 19 to 20. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel. And they said, "No, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles." I repeat, 1 Samuel 8, 19 to 20 says, "Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel. And they said, 'No, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.'" The devotion. Be careful what you choose to copy. There are many great examples out there, but not everything great is for you. I know we usually want to imitate success and follow in the footsteps of successful people, but we need to define what success really means. For each person God created, He has a special purpose in mind, and success means following up to fulfill the reason for which you were created. God may have intended something else for someone else, and seeking to copy him or her may lead to your destruction, because God's grace will not support you outside of God's purpose for your life. Grace is connected to purpose. The same thing applies to institutions and organizations and even nations. God raises up organizations and institutions to serve His purposes. And we may look at them and want our institutions to imitate theirs, when God has a different agenda lined up for your organization. Be careful what you choose to copy. Not every good thing is good for you. I repeat, be careful what you choose to copy. Not every good thing is good for you. The people, in quotes, refused to obey the voice of Samuel. Why? Because they wanted to be, in quotes, like all the nations. They wanted a king that will go out before them and fight their battles. It was at this point that Samuel realized that the problem was really not that his son's behavior had turned the people off. It means that even while he was judging them as Samuel, they had been dissatisfied because he was not a leader like the kings of other nations around them. It was then that it dawned on Samuel that the people had actually rejected his God, who had always gone out ahead of them to give them victory. They had turned their hearts away from their divine calling as a nation under God's direct leadership, and wanted to be a nation under man's leadership. Even though they had not suffered loss under God's leadership, they envied the nations around them who had a man visibly leading them. They were moving away from their grace and their calling. Be careful what you choose to copy. You have a unique ordination and calling. Your family has a unique ordination and calling. When your heart is tempted to want to be like others, listen to the Holy Spirit's voice and see if He is pulling you back from that desire. Yes, imitate what is good, And if he gives you liberty, copy what is good. But remember always, you are unique and your calling is unique. Your grace is tied to your calling and to your ordination. Praise the name of the Lord. Now, let me expand a bit more on this. And remember the topic for those who just joined. The topic is watch what you copy. Watch what you copy. You see, many of us, we are chasing something called success. And we often define success by looking at what is happening to some other people's lives. And then you may say to yourself, why am I not successful like brother A or like sister B? This person is married at a young age, has so many children, has been able to do X, Y, and Z, has been able to go to X, Y, and Z, lives in a house that is theirs, drives a car like this, and so on and so forth. Usually, we look at other people and then we define ourselves according to other people's calling and standard. But remember that each person has a unique calling. Each person has a unique ordination. Each person has a unique purpose in God. And so some of the things that make us so restless and unhappy, they are sometimes tied to the desire to want to be like others. And when you look at others and you want to be like them, you may actually be turning your back on a higher calling that God has for you as a person. When I say a higher calling, not a calling that is necessarily better than the other person, it is higher because it is tailor-made for you. It is uniquely fitted for you. I don't buy shirts in the malls because I realize that the way my body is, shirts I buy outside, particularly colored shirts, they don't fit me the way I want. But I have a tailor who knows my body and he sews to fit me. He knows what I want. Also, for example, I usually am not very comfortable when I wear suit and a tie. I feel choked. I feel, not in my skin. Unlike when I wear some other more Nigerian type of clothing or dressing, I feel in my skin. I feel comfortable. Of course, there are times and places I will need to wear a suit and a tie. But I need to be asking God always, what am I designed for? What suits me? What is it that you have made me to be? Do I need to look like someone to feel successful? Do I need to talk like someone to feel successful? Do I need to act like someone to feel successful? Someone else, it is perfectly okay that they wear their suit and tie. It fits them. It's part of their skin. But I am not cut out that way. And I want you to know you are cut out in a unique way, not about dressing, but I only use that as an example. You are cut out in a unique way. You see, even going back to the issue of dressing, many of our people are chasing the way the world dresses. But you see, God may have cut you out to be different. God's purpose for you is to be an example in another way. You don't have to look like them. You don't have to talk like them. You don't have to act like them. You don't have to have what they have for you to be successful, for you to be wonderful, for you to be beautiful, for you to be in God's purpose. And so, part of the cry in my heart this morning is to call you, dear pilgrim of God, into God's purpose for your life. For, like I repeated again and again, your calling and your ordination is unique. Your calling and your ordination is unique. Even among the 12 disciples, their calling and their ordination were different. What God expected from Peter was different from what he expected from Bartholomew or from Andrew. What God expected from John was different from what God expected from someone else. Each one had a unique place, and we need to celebrate who God made us to be, and we need to grow in the pathways of our calling and ordination, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in the secular profession, whether it's even in your family. Each family is unique. I keep on telling my children, we are unique. Don't tell me, this my friend's family does this, and that my friend's family does that. Don't look at that family. What we need to be asking is, how is the Lord leading us as a family? What are the core values the Lord is placing before us? What are the things the Lord wants us to run with and walk with? Define according to God's definition. Run the race that is set before you. Don't run someone else's race. For grace is connected to your location, to your calling, to your ordination. We are unique. We are made unique. We are called unique. And success means that each person must run the race that has been set before them. It is unique. It is different. The other day, I was just reflecting on my life and my ministry and what I'm doing, and God was just showing me that even this devotion we have, where between 25 and 30 of you come together, and we have been walking this journey for some of you more than 2 years. And God was saying, this is a unique calling. This is a unique discipleship. This is a unique program. And God was showing me someone else may be called into gathering the masses of the crowds of the tens of thousands. And God may not be calling me to that. God may be calling me to pour out my heart and my life and my understanding to a few people like you, that you may reproduce in the tens and the thousands. Every calling is unique. Where we are located now is unique. And people may wonder, why would you go and live in the desert? But it's unique. God's calling for each of us is unique. Discover that, and grace will meet you. Grace will meet you where God has placed you. As I was preparing this devotion this morning, one example that came to my mind is the football coach. The football team I love so much is Manchester City. That's the team I love so much. That's my team. And Pep Guardiola is a coach that is very unique, very unique. I watch the way he pours himself, his passion into those players, the way he grooms those players, and the way he has built such a successful team. Now, somebody may be telling Pep Guardiola, Pep, you are always on the sideline telling people what to do. Why don't you jump into the pitch and go and kick the ball around yourself? Why are you always on the sidelines telling people do this and do that, but you don't do it yourself? You are a hypocrite. You are not truthful. No. Pep Guardiola's calling is not to be on the field as a footballer. Pep Guardiola's calling is to raise men and women who will defeat every team that they meet. But he does that from the sidelines, not by getting to the pitch. Some people, you may not be evangelists on the street winning souls every day. That is not your calling. Somebody else may be called to that. Please don't look down on yourself and say, I am not useful in the kingdom of God because I'm not in the forefront doing the things that some other people are doing. God may have raised you for something else. In the strategy of God, maybe you are not supposed to be in the front lines. Maybe much earlier in my ministry, 30 years ago, I would walk on the streets and I would climb mountains and I would cross rivers just looking for souls to preach to. That was a calling. And I would do that and not be tired because I lived for that. All I did was to be on the streets, to be in the buses, to go to the villages, to climb the mountains, to cross the rivers. That was all I was called to do. But after 30 years, my role has significantly changed. I am more in a coaching role. I am more in a mentorship role. I am more in the casting vision role. And I have to accept, sometimes I am restless and I want to be like I was 30 years ago, but I don't have that grace because it's a new season. It's a different dispensation. I want to encourage you, beloved of God. Go with God in the seasons. The people said to Samuel, they said to him, no, we will have a king over us. Why? So that we will be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Aha! It was at this point that Samuel realized, so the real problem was not the behavior of the sons, because they had said, if you remember, give us a king. We don't want your sons to be judges over us, because their lives were not correct. But at this point, we realized, oh, their problem wasn't really the lifestyle of Samuel's sons. Their problem is they wanted to be like other nations around them. The problem is they wanted a king that would ride ahead of them and go into battles for them. The problem was that they were rejecting God as the one who gave them victory in their battles. They were rejecting their divine ordination as a theocracy, as a people under God, as a people under God's leadership, as a people where God himself was their king, who went out ahead of them, who routed their enemies, who gave them victory. Then Samuel understood the real issue wasn't Samuel or his sons. The real issue was the people were judging their success by comparing themselves with other people, other nations. Remember, my beloved, watch what you copy. Be careful what you want to copy. We're not even talking about copying things that are bad. As pilgrims, I shouldn't even raise that. Copying worldliness, copying sinfulness, copying evil. I don't expect any of you to be in that category who want to copy the world system and the evil system. You are not even a pilgrim if you are at that stage. But my concern is that pilgrims may want to copy the good things they see in other people. They may want to copy the good examples they see in other people. But as pilgrims, I'm saying that's not bad. Just be careful that you are not trying to copy someone else and enter into a calling and an ordination that was not meant for you. As a family, many years ago, we took a decision that our children will not have their first degree in a university in the Western world. We just took that decision under God. And so our first daughter graduated with the first class in a university in Nigeria. She's doing very well. Our second daughter is in her fourth year in a university in Nigeria. She's doing well. I have no regrets. I don't say, oh, this man has his child in a university in America. That man has a child in a university in Europe. How I wish my children had gone to Europe or America. We don't have that calling. That family may have that calling. That family may have that expectation. That may be God's will for them, but it's not God's will for us. Our children may have been totally lost if we had sent them to America, because they may not have had the grace to survive in America. But another family, God may have that as a purpose. for them to send their children to the West to study. And then there's grace for that. Please don't just send your kids abroad to study because your friends are doing the same. Don't just copy others. Always ask the hard question, is this God's will for me? And if it is, stick with it. If it is, remain where God has placed you. I need to stop at this point. I still have so much to say on this matter. But remember, you are unique. You are unique. If God has given you much wealth, be asking the Lord, what should I use this wealth for? If God has given you the grace to pray hard and pray long, ask God the question, what do you want me to do with this grace of intercession? If God has used you to be an encourager, to be somebody who can encourage and help soften hearts of people. You know, my wife and I went to speak at a hospital chapel yesterday, and I did the preaching. And when I was done with the preaching, I said, if you want someone to pray with you, you can stay back and I will be glad to pray with you. And some people came to me, but some people went to my wife. It was amazing, the difference. Those who came with me, I was doing more of teaching and praying. Those who went to my wife, I just saw them crying with her. My wife is crying, they are weeping together, they are hugging themselves. You see, different callings, different. My wife would hug you and cry with you, and you will find comfort and peace within the embrace of her love and her softness and her gentleness. I am called more to the teaching and the explanation of the word. Different calling. She doesn't have to be like me. I don't have to be like her. Be comfortable in the skin God has put you. Find out, what does God really want you to do, and grow in that. That is success. Success is being comfortable in what God has called you to be. Can we just make one final prayer? Our time is gone. And our prayer is, Lord, never let me copy anything around me that's not in your will for me. Help me to grow in my ordination and calling. Do you understand that? Never let me copy someone else because I think they are successful. Help me to grow in my calling and ordination. Let's go to the Lord as pilgrims.